For nearly 40 years, the Toyota Camry has been one of America's most popular selling family sedans. And with Americans constantly buying crossovers with all-wheel drive left and right, it's forced Toyota to make some changes to the Camry for this new generation, which is why I'm out here in beautiful Park City, Utah on this snow course with a Camry that we haven't seen in America for nearly 3 decades. This is now an all-wheel drive version of the Camry, available on 4 of the trim levels and also newly available on the Avalon for the first time. So the big question I want to answer, with all-wheel drive finally on the Toyota sedans, has Toyota managed to perfect their family car even more? That's what we're here to find out. So the last time we saw a Camry with all-wheel drive here in the States, it was back in 1991. I was 1 year old back then, to show you how long ago that was. And the Camry's all-wheel drive system back then was called All-Trac. This new Camry has a different all-wheel drive system that's dubbed dynamic torque vectoring, which is the same one that's on the Rav4 and on the Highlander if you guys go for the high trim. When you pop the hood of this vehicle, you're probably wondering what kind of powertrain has Toyota paired the all-wheel drive system with. Well, sadly, you can only get it with the base engine, which is a 2.5 liter direct injection 4-cylinder. It makes 202 horsepower on the LE and XLE trims, but if you guys go for an SE trim or an XSE trim with the dual exhaust, you get 205 horsepower. Now that is 1 less horsepower than what you get in the front drive model. I'm going to attribute that to maybe the drivetrain losses with the new all-wheel drive system. All-wheel drive Camrys will come with an 8-speed automatic. Now I asked Toyota why didn't they do a 6-cylinder option with the all-wheel drive. They said it's basically what consumers wanted. They looked at the 6-cylinder, they tested it, but when they paired it with the 4-cylinder, they got the better fuel economy they were looking for, and they also said that the drivability is preserved. It's basically what people buy. Toyota says that only about 6% of buyers, 6%, only choose the 6-cylinder option, which is a little bit low sounding for me. Now, compared to the front drive model, fuel economy has taken a dive. This is rated at 25 in the city and 34 on the highway. That's a 5 mpg reduction, which is surprising to me, but consider the fact that this is the only family sedan with all-wheel drive that is paired with an 8-speed automatic. Remember, the Ultima all-wheel drive and the Subaru Legacy all-wheel drive come with a CVT, which is why those vehicles get slightly better MPG. Now, Toyota says that the all-wheel drive system of this car only added about 165 pounds, so performance should be pretty similar, which we'll get out on the road later on and compare that. Unfortunately, with the Avalon, Toyota also only offers that with the 4-cylinder. I really think the company should have paired the Avalon all-wheel drive with the 6-cylinder option. Now, looking at the rest of the Camry all-wheel drive, you can see there are no styling changes for 2020 and for the all-wheel drive model in general. So this one here is the XSE trim. So you have the full LED headlights, the XSE front bumper. And then looking at the side profile, you can see Toyota says they have kept the ground clearance at around 5.7 inches, which means you shouldn't be taking your Camry all-wheel drive out to where you're going to be driving your Rav4 or Highlander all-wheel drive, because you can easily get the vehicle high-centered. I'm not going to say whether this vehicle is looking like that in the video, but you guys can leave that to your own opinion. The all-wheel drive system in this car allows the Camry to send up to 50% of the torque to the rear axles. And when you factor in the dynamic torque vectoring, it's not exactly a full, torque vectoring like you get in Acura Super Handling all-wheel drive, but it does allow the Camry to appropriate the power to the left and the right to give you slightly better handling. Toyota says the all-wheel drive system on this car will also decouple. So when it's not needed, it'll stay front-wheel drive until the traction is needed, and then it'll divert power up to 50% to the rear. Now, at the back of the Camry all-wheel drive, your only indication that this is an all-wheel drive Camry is this little badge right here. That's it. Even on the interior, there is no all-wheel drive badge or any all-wheel drive gauges to show anything. As you can see, this XSE has quad outlet exhaust, which adds 3 more horsepower to the LE and XLE. And then, because Toyota did some great things with the packaging, the trunk capacity was preserved. Both the Camry and the Avalon all-wheel drive have 15.5 for the Camry and about 16 cubic feet of trunk space. The seats also still fold down, so you don't lose any of that practicality. All right, so now that we got the Camry unstuck, I am here with Matt from Matt Moran Motoring, and this is our first time on the snow course in the all-wheel drive Camry. Now, they told us to leave the traction control on and maintain like 10, 15 miles an hour, so I'll listen to them. But you guys saw earlier that the Camry was beached because of my stupidity, but they managed to pull it out for us, and you guys saw that it is an all-wheel drive car. You saw the rear axle spinning, so let's see. They have this like little prepped snow course for us here. And they told me not to stop as I go up this hill, otherwise you will get stuck. Because remember, we don't have very much ground clearance, so... Okay. And you know what, it pretty much handles like a Camry does. I mean, you do feel the subtle torque of the rear axle from time to time, and this is with the traction control on, so it's holding everything. The car's not really sliding anywhere. That's good. We're gonna go around again, and I'm gonna turn everything off just because we like to have a little fun here.
It's doing pretty good for all-season tires.
Yeah,
though.
because this is all-season tires on the car. Toyota said they wanted these cars to be represented how you can buy it off the showroom floor. So I imagine a lot of owners might be putting winners if you are constantly in this kind of environment. Yeah, it's cutting power there, but for the most part, this is a very easy car to drive, and there's like no drama. It's quiet. Like, people who buy this and you're encountering snow, you're going to be really liking what you get. I'm guessing I go left. Yes.
So, yeah.
Oh yeah, we're going to do that again with everything off. Yeah. All right, run 2. Now we have all the nannies turned off. Let's see if we can have a little more fun this time. I'll try not to kill us as well, Matt.
Sounds good.
Now, even though you can turn all the nannies off in this car, we saw firsthand it didn't actually turn everything off. Like, it was still interfering when we were stuck, which is why they had to have the tractor come and tow us out. But this should allow the back end to step out so we can have a little more fun. All right, there we go, a little more. Steps out a little more, let's see.
Nice. You got that. That was great.
Okay, yeah, you can literally feel the car applying power to the rear, and you can kind of actually steer with the throttle a little bit. Never thought you could have this.
Drifting like a pro over here.
Never thought you could have this much fun in a Camry, huh?
This is great.
Okay, this definitely is a nice addition to the Camry line. Even though it doesn't have a V6, like, this is pretty fun. All right, so now we've switched, and I'm going to let Matt drive, and he's going to see if he can drift the Camry.
See if I can live up to what Sophion was doing there. He was DKing it. Trying not to catch air here.
Trying to channel your inner drift queen.
Yep.
Okay.
I wish it sent more than 50% to the back.
Yeah,
it'd be fun to have a little
it's
more
not like
bias.
the Stinger where you could do like a complete 100%, but
Yeah.
like in a Camry you can do this now. Like, that is pretty cool. Like, and it's really controllable.
It is. I was just gonna say that it's very controllable. Too bad. I wish it would kick out a little more. But... There we go. A little slide. A little hot there.
We're good.
I didn't get stuck.
We're good. You could hear the anti-lock brakes and everything kind of working there to keep us.
Yeah.
And if you want to go again, feel free.
I'm good. That was fun.
All right, so now that we are back on the road with the 2020 Camry all-wheel drive, I want to first touch base on the fact that Toyota hasn't offered a Camry with all-wheel drive since 1991. I was literally 1 year old, 2 years old, I guess, when that car was last out. So it's a really big deal that Toyota's finally returning all-wheel drive to the Camry. I'll switch over into an Avalon in just a moment to show you guys the driving footage of that. We've never actually had an Avalon with all-wheel drive either. Now, I will admit I was pretty disappointed when Toyota only offered the all-wheel drive system with the 4-cylinder. I asked them, why didn't you guys offer it with the V6? And Toyota simply responded with the fact that dealers were asking for the 4-cylinder because it's the one that most people buy. The take rate for the V6 is only 6% in America. So come on, guys. Toyota is the last one that offers a 6-cylinder with their family sedan, and nobody buys it. Out of the 300,000 people that bought a Camry last year, only 6% bought a Camry with a 6-cylinder engine. So it makes sense why they're only pairing it with the 4-cylinder, because this is the one that's going to be getting better gas mileage. It's the engine that people tend to buy. And you know what? For a base engine, put your foot down here. It's got a very responsive 8-speed automatic, and really it's the only game in town in the mainstream mid-size family sedan segment that offers a traditional stepped automatic. The Altima with all-wheel drive, as you know, has a CVT. The Subaru Legacy only has a CVT, although the Subaru, when I drove that last year, has a turbo engine, and that's very intriguing for me to have the turbo, because that gives you that extra punch that this car is certainly lacking. I mean, 205 horsepower on this XSE trim is certainly not bad. It also has a manual mode here for the 8-speed auto. It actually does a good job of rev matching. The engine itself just has a kind of a grainy sound to it. I'm not in love with the noise that this engine is making. I'm hoping it'd be smoother. Toyota typically is known for building smoother four cylinders, and it definitely gets a little buzzy when you start pushing it. You feel that the engine is working hard constantly, which I fear is going to lower the fuel economy in the real world, unless you guys are used to driving a car that's a little more sluggish. Now, this car does have the ability to send up to 50% of the power to the rear. It doesn't have the full torque vectoring that the upper trims of the Rav4 has, however. So it's in sport mode here. Let's take this right turn. Let's see how that feels. Again, no drama. There's no wheel spin because it just doesn't have enough power. And you just feel a new level of confidence with Camrys, because the four-cylinder itself, however, didn't really need the all-wheel drive because it didn't spin the tires the way the six-cylinder does. But again, for those of you who don't drive like, a race car driver constantly, this has plenty of power. I feel like the 0 to 60 in this environment at 9,000 feet above sea level is probably around 8.5 seconds. It feels sluggish, but I'll have to weigh in reserve judgment, do another test when I have this car back home in the DC area. Other than that, it drives like a typical, Camry. It has very good steering, very communicative, surprisingly, good weight to it. But let me try another acceleration run here. I'm going to turn off the traction control. Let's just do another brake. Let's try brake torquing a bit. Yep, 60 happens eventually, which is a little harsh. This thing has just adequate power, like the fact that it's all-wheel drive now. Has a very good ride quality, even though this car has, 18-inch wheels on it, or 19-inch wheels actually on this trim. The seats are still a little hard for me. I'm not in love with the seats. The interior of this model has not changed a bit from the traditional gas Camry, or the traditional front drive Camry. So you have the same 8-inch infotainment system here. They don't call it Toyota Entune anymore, but it does include Amazon Alexa, Android Auto, and Apple CarPlay now. Finally, it has Toyota Safety Sense 2.0 standard, so it's got adaptive cruise control, active lane keep assist. It's got a heads-up display that this one has. It's got a new cold weather package that Toyota offers on the all-wheel drive models. You can get it on all the trims, and they basically add heated seats, heated steering wheel, and heated mirrors. Now on this XSE trim, it only adds the heated steering wheel because it already comes with heated seats and heated mirrors. Toyota hasn't announced final pricing on the cold weather package yet. I love the fact that they finally have added cooled seats to the Camry. That's great. And the passenger seat over here is now an 8-way power driver's seat, which is great. So finally, some features that are trickling down from the higher up Toyota models. Still no memory seats. That's one thing that Toyota has reserved for the Avalon, but this pano sunroof adds in a lot of light. This black interior is what most people are going to get. And really, this car has enough power for most people. It's comfortable, it's safe, it's quiet, it's a Camry, so it's going to be damn reliable. You guys know that, and that's probably why Toyota has decided to stick with the 4-cylinder. It's got a traditional 8-speed auto. The all-wheel drive system comes from the Rav4, so they didn't really have to do that much engineering work into this car to make it fit. And remember, the all-wheel drive Camry and Avalon is specific to North America. These platforms were not designed with all-wheel drive in mind in the beginning, but because consumers demanded it so bad, and Toyota is expecting the take rate to be 15 to 20% of customers buying a Camry or Avalon with all-wheel drive. I'm going to expect it in this type of environment with the snow and everything in the cold areas. People are going to be demanding this more. I wouldn't be surprised if Toyota does like closer to 30% of all-wheel drive Camrys when this car does go on sale in the spring. Now, typically, if I do that in a front drive Camry, you'll hear the front tires spinning. You'll feel a little bit of a tug from the wheel, but make a U-turn and floor it in the all-wheel drive version. There's no drama. The one thing I wish that Toyota had added, however, was a display here that shows where the torque is going. There's nothing in this interior that would notify me that this is the all-wheel drive Camry. Not a single badge anywhere, no dynamic torque display showing the torque going to the rear axle or anything like that. So surprised that Toyota didn't at least include that, which is why I'm doing kind of the shortened version of the interior, because the interior is identical to a front drive only Camry. And your only indication that this is all-wheel drive is if you look on the rump of this vehicle, you'll see an all-wheel drive badge, or if you get it stuck like I did earlier today and you see those back tires spinning, yes, you'll know that this is an all-wheel drive Camry. Enough about the Camry though, let's switch over into the Avalon because I want to see the differences with that model. And this is the first time we're seeing an Avalon of this new generation with this 2.5 liter 4-cylinder engine. All right, so now we've switched into the Avalon with all-wheel drive, and this is the very first time we've seen an Avalon with all-wheel drive. I think this car's been out since 1995 and Toyota's never offered an all-wheel drive. The sad thing is though, I wish that they had paired this with the V6. Like, it would have been a nice differentiation because, you know, this is supposed to be more luxury oriented, but I have a feeling, and you might agree with me, that Toyota didn't want to step on Lexus's toes by putting this with the V6 and all-wheel drive. But it is funny that you can't get the Lexus ES without all-wheel drive. Like, yeah. that is really weird. But, you know, switching into this car, because we just got out of the Camry with all-wheel drive, and this thing, to me at least, feels just like the Camry. The Avalon itself is about 3 inches longer than the Camry, but this is also the first time that we're seeing Toyota put a 4-cylinder, a naturally aspirated 4-cylinder in this car. And Toyota says that it weighs about the same as the 6-cylinder front drive Avalon. So it should weigh around 3,600 pounds, but we only have 205 horsepower now instead of 302. So that's a pretty big decrease. I have to say, the Avalon, if you guys have never driven one, has gotten a lot sportier now. This is definitely not your grandpa's car anymore, even though it still kind of has that stigma. This limited trim that we're sitting in is not the XSE or Touring, and Toyota actually doesn't offer all-wheel drive on the XSE or Touring. You have to go for an XLE or a limited trim, which I was a little surprised about, although I'm guessing the people who buy an Avalon would probably prefer the more luxury-oriented trims anyway. The car itself is really refined. The steering is nice. It rides a little softer, I'm noticing. And I haven't pushed the engine yet, but let me put it into sport mode here. I think it's already in sport. And it sounds about the same as the Camry. What do you think?
Yeah, basically the same.
Yeah, I was expecting it to be a little more muted. Like maybe Toyota would put some like sound deadening in it.
It would have been nice.
A little more sound deadening in it, but it's at least the 8-speed is still relatively refined, but I just think that Toyota should have considered putting the 6-cylinder with the Avalon. I can excuse the Camry a little bit more, but I'm really wishing that it was on the Avalon instead. Let's try another push-pull here. Yeah, I mean, it feels just identical. Like, aside from the nicer interior and a little bit softer ride quality, you'd be really hard pressed to tell the difference between the two on the road. Like, if I could drive blindfolded, this is pretty similar. I will say that the Camry's visibility is a little bit better. The Avalon also has a larger infotainment screen, so if you're looking for a little bit more luxury, this interior definitely offers it. Like, this one here has like a gray two-tone with the interior. It's got the larger touchscreen. You can still get the the heated and cooled seats, but you can get that in the Camry. But this car has memory seats, which you can't get on the Camry. But the weird thing is this one has no pano sunroof, and you can't get that on an Avalon, but you can on a Camry.
It's weird too.
It's really weird how Toyota is inconsistent like that.
Have you driven the hybrid version?
Yeah, so I drove the hybrid Avalon, and I did a video with it with Tommy actually last year. The hybrid model was fine.
Does this seem about the same performance-wise, or a little bit less or more?
The hybrid version definitely had a little bit more like a off-the-line feel with the torque.
Yeah.
This feels probably the slowest out of all the Avalons available, just because of the drag that the all-wheel drive system is creating. 100 horsepower is pretty significant.
Yeah.
But I imagine that people, again, who are buying this car, they probably don't really care to have like the really fast acceleration. But I just think that it would have been a nice differentiating factor, because you haven't driven the Avalon or Camry TRD yet, have you? Yeah, those things are actually really fun, like, and they really will make you think like, this is definitely not my grandpa's Avalon. But this feels a little more like this could be an Avalon my grandpa would like.
Yeah. And I'm sure that group of people will love the extra security.
Oh, yeah.
All-wheel drive.
They'll love the all-wheel, because like if you look at this segment, like Maxima doesn't offer all-wheel drive. You can get it on Charger and 300, but those are very slightly different cars. And then Kia just showed off the refreshed Cadenza, which doesn't offer all-wheel drive either. So a very small segment. The Avalon is still a really good pick. So if you guys want your all-weather traction, voila, it's here now in the Avalon all-wheel drive. So I was pretty excited when Toyota said that they were bringing back all-wheel drive to the Camry after 30 years and for the first time ever on the Avalon. I was slightly disappointed that Toyota didn't offer it on the 6-cylinder or as a hybrid option. However, after driving the 4-cylinder Camry with all-wheel drive, this is going to be a car that's going to satisfy the majority of Americans, probably 90%. It has adequate power for most situations, although out here in Park City, Utah, where the elevation is at 9,000 feet above sea level, the car does feel a little gutless. I'll have to wait and reserve my judgment again when I drive this thing back in DC. The rest of the car, again, is very much what you expect from a Camry. Very easy to drive, very comfortable, very spacious interior, lots of standard equipment list. And if you guys want, the sport-oriented model like this one or the luxury-oriented model, there's really a Camry all-wheel drive for a lot of people. And Toyota expects the take rate for this version to be roughly 15 to 20%. I'm imagining in places like this, it's probably going to be over 50%. Because remember, Toyota still manages to sell over 300,000 Camrys every year, and they do about 10% of that number on Avalon sales every year. So this is a car that a lot of consumers have been wanting. Sure, am I sad that they don't offer it with the 6-cylinder? Yes. However, I think the 4-cylinder has probably enough power for most people. Now, speaking of which, if you guys are looking to buy an all-wheel drive Camry, what's it going to cost? Toyota hasn't announced final pricing yet for this model, but it's going to be roughly about $1,500 higher versus the front drive only version. Remember, all-wheel drive is available on LE, SE, XSE, and XLE. So I would estimate this one here, an XSE with everything, is going to be closer to around $37,000, which puts the Camry right in the meat of where everything is. An Altima with all-wheel drive is going to be similar. The Subaru Legacy with all-wheel drive will be similar, but just keep in mind the Subaru does offer a more powerful turbo engine. So if you guys are looking for more power, the Subaru still is the one that you want to go with. And Toyota also says if you're looking to pick one of these up, they will be going on sale at your local Toyota dealership starting in the spring of this year. But with all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on this 2020 Toyota Camry and Avalon all-wheel drive. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews. Like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.